In 2023, a cryptic red document surfaced at Kyoto's famed Fushimi Inari Shrine, sending shockwaves through Japan and beyond. The parchment, adorned with archaic script and the ominous silhouette of a black fox, bore a chilling prophecy. When the cherry blossoms bloom late, Japan's economy will collapse in 2028. This enigmatic warning, dubbed the Red Paper, Fatinto Eika Kami, swiftly evolved from obscure online folklore into a viral sensation, intertwining modern anxieties with ancient myth. Originating in the shadowy corners of Japanese anonymous forums like 2channel and 5chan, the legend gained traction through fragmented posts describing a rediscovered Edo period text, predicting economic ruin tied to disruptions in nature. By early 2024, the tale metastasized across social media, with TikTok users dissecting cherry blossom bloom data and Twitter threads linking the black fox, a sacred symbol of Inari, the Shinto deity of prosperity, to portents of decline. Skeptics dismissed it as a digital age hoax, yet the narrative's timing proved uncanny. Japan's cherry blossoms had indeed bloomed later than usual in 2023, a phenomenon scientists attributed to climate change, while the nation grappled with a weakening yen and stagnant growth. The confluence of ecological unease and economic fragility lent the Red Paper an unsettling resonance. Government officials and historians scrambled to debunk the claims, citing no evidence of such a document in shrine archives or historical records, but their rational rebuttals struggled against the legend's visceral appeal. For many, the black fox motif deepened the intrigue. Inari's messengers, traditionally depicted as white or gold, now reimagined as harbingers of doom in user-generated art and viral videos. Conspiracy theorists posited ties to globalist agendas or AI-generated disinformation, while cultural scholars noted parallels to yokai folklore, where shape-shifting foxes, heija kitsune, often symbolize societal upheaval. By mid-2024, the Red Paper had transcended meme status, inspiring street protests, anime fan theories, and even corporate marketing stunts, capitalizing on the phrase 2028 collapse. Yet beneath the frenzy lay a poignant subtext. The prophecy's power stemmed not from its authenticity, but from its mirroring of Japan's collective psyche, a nation reconciling technological prowess with environmental fragility, aging demographics, and the lingering trauma of the 1990s lost decade. As the late-blooming sakura of 2023 became a metaphor for delayed reckoning, the Red Paper legend crystallized a timeless truth. In an era of uncertainty, myth often fills the voids left by data, binding ancient symbols to modern fears in a narrative, as enduring as the stones of Fushimi Inari itself. At the heart of the Red Paper, legend lies a prophecy steeped in visceral, almost cinematic dread. The yen will fall like autumn leaves, banks will transform into labyrinths, and the black fox will devour the rising sun. These haunting metaphors, circulating virally since 2023, fuse economic collapse with ecological and supernatural symbolism, reflecting Japan's contemporary anxieties through the prism of folklore. The prophecy's central omen, delayed, cherry blossoms, tatit, sakura, serves as both a literal and allegorical trigger, grounding its mysticism in the unsettling reality of climate change. Scientists confirmed that 2023's unusually late blooms resulted from rising temperatures disrupting seasonal cycles, a phenomenon now weaponized by the legend to frame environmental instability as a harbinger of systemic ruin. Yet it is the myth's roots in Shinto tradition that amplify its cultural potency. The black fox, a stark deviation from Inari's sacred messengers, traditionally depicted as white or golden kitsune, embodying fertility and wealth, emerges as a perversion of Japan's most enduring symbol of prosperity. Inari Okami, the deity enshrined at Fushimi Inari, has long occupied a dual role in Japanese spirituality, a bestower of abundance and a punisher of greed. A duality echoed in Edo period tales, where neglected shrines invited divine retribution. This tension between blessing and curse resurfaces in the Red Paper's narrative, positioning the black fox not merely as a harbinger of economic doom, but as an avatar of karmic reckoning, a supernatural auditor demanding accountability for ecological abuse and financial hubris. Historians note striking parallels to the 18th century Koyasan prophecy, a cryptic scroll allegedly hidden in Wakayama's Shingon Buddhist temples, which foretold the Tokugawa shogunate's collapse through veiled references to blighted rice harvests and a nine-tailed fox dancing in the ashes of Edo. Like the Red Paper, the Koyasan text leveraged existing folklore, fox spirits, yokai, and agricultural symbolism to critique societal decay, its ambiguity allowing marginalized groups to project their grievances onto its verses. Yet where the Koyasan prophecy functioned as a subversive grassroots critique of feudal power, the Red Paper thrives in the digital age's hyper-connected ambiguity, its metaphors dissected across platforms. TikTok theorists overlay footage of Tokyo's neon-lit bank districts with AI-generated imagery of crumbling currencies, while Reddit threads parse the labyrinth banks as nods to Japan's stagnant fintech sector, or the Bank of Japan's negative interest rate quagmire. Even the phrase, "devour the rising sun," sparks polarized interpretations. Nationalists frame it as a warning about foreign economic predation, while environmentalists see a metaphor for solar energy's failure to offset fossil fuel dependence. Government attempts to quell the hysteria, including press conferences debunking the prophecy's historicity. "No such document exists in our archives," insisted Fushimi Inari's head priest, have only amplified its allure, echoing the Tokugawa bureaucracy's futile efforts to suppress the Koyasan scrolls. Scholars argue that the Red Paper's power lies in its synthesis of mono-no-aware, the traditional appreciation of transience embodied by cherry blossoms, with 21st-century existential threats, transforming sakura from symbols of poetic melancholy into countdown clocks for societal collapse. Meanwhile, the Black Fox's evolving symbolism reveals a society grappling with its mythic identity. Memes reimagine the creature as a cryptocurrency logo, a mascot for recession-era protest, movements, or even an anime antihero, blurring the line between sacred archetype and pop culture commodity. This duality mirrors Japan's own struggle to reconcile its reverence for tradition with the pressures of globalization and demographic decline, a tension amplified by the prophecy's 2028 deadline, a year coinciding with projected milestones in Japan's aging crisis and debt-to-GDP ratio. In this sense, the Red Paper transcends mere urban legend, functioning as a collective ritual of catharsis, where economic data and climate models are translated into the language of haunted scrolls and shape-shifting foxes, allowing a nation to confront its vulnerabilities through stories as timeless as the stones of Fushimi Inari. Beneath the veneer of neon-lit skyscrapers and bullet trains, Japan's economic machinery is groaning under the weight of paradoxes, a nation drowning in debt yet starved of inflation for decades, now choking on its sudden resurgence. The yen, once a fortress of stability, has become a protagonist in a financial horror story, plummeting to a 32-year nadir of 160 against the dollar in 2023. Pensioners queue at discount grocers, clutching wallets thickened with bills worth less than the ink printed on them, while salarymen watch helplessly as their life savings evaporate. A cruel twist for a currency long synonymous with discipline. Inflation, dormant like a hibernating beast since the 1980s, has awoken snarling at 3.1%, its fangs sinking deepest into energy and food prices. In Osaka's shadowed alleyways, ramen shop owners now post daily apology prices on chalkboards, their broth pots simmering with imported wheat priced in dollars. Yet this inflationary spike offers no salvation. Unlike the boom cycle surges of other nations, Japan's is a stagflation of despair, where prices soar even as wages flatline and GDP growth stutters at 0.4%, a sickening tandem that economists liken to running on a treadmill made of quicksand. The true specter, however, looms in the debt markets. At 263% of GDP, Japan's public debt isn't merely a number. It's a thermodynamic impossibility, a black hole where the rules of fiscal gravity cease to apply. For years, the Bank of Japan, BOJ, performed alchemy, hoovering up bonds with aofi, printed yen, in a self-referential loop that kept borrowing costs near zero. But the spell is fraying. In 2023, the BOJ's balance sheet ballooned to 135% of GDP, surpassing the nation's entire economic output, a statistical obscenity that turned central banking into a high-wire act above a volcano. Bond traders whisper of a coming Volcker moment, where the slightest rate hike could detonate the debt bomb, vaporizing pensions and vapor-locking the $4.7 trillion government bond market. Meanwhile, demographics paint a dystopian fresco, with 29% of the population over 65 and births plunging below 800,000 annually. Japan's social security system resembles a Ponzi scheme in reverse, a shrinking workforce supporting an Everest of elderly. In rural towns like Aizu Wakamatsu, entire blocks stand silent, their wooden kominka homes occupied only by the ghosts of families long gone, while robotic caregivers wheel through nursing homes, their cold efficiency underscoring the human deficit. Globalization, once Japan's rocket fuel, now threatens to become its funeral pyre. The U.S.-China tech war has fractured supply chains like tectonic plates, leaving Japanese manufacturers stranded in no man's land. When Washington banned advanced chip exports to China, factories in Fukuoka froze mid-production, their silicon wafers suddenly orphaned. Beijing's retaliatory rare earth restrictions sent shockwaves through Nagoya's auto giants. Toyota's famed just-in-time system, now mocked as just too late on investor forums. But the true gut punch comes from the West's friend-shoring frenzy. Once loyal partners like Vietnam and India now demand technology transfers as the price of market access, unraveling Japan's export empire stitch by stitch. At a closed-door Kaidenren meeting leaked to Nikkei, CEOs likened Japan's predicament to playing 3D chess blindfolded, caught between Chinese coercion, American protectionism, and a global South demanding reparations for decades of trade surpluses. Yet amid this economic tsunami, a perverse symbiosis emerges between data and myth. The Red Paper's prophecy of banks becoming labyrinths finds eerie resonance in the BOJ's negative interest rate maze, where $6 trillion of household savings languish in accounts yielding less than decay. The black fox devouring the sun manifests in solar panel factories shuttered by Chinese dumping, their workers retraining as Uber drivers. Even the yen's freefall seems to mirror the falling autumn leaves of legend, a poetic unraveling that no PowerPoint-wielding bureaucrat can halt. As 2028 approaches, Japan stands at a crossroads between reinvention and ruin, its economic indicators bleeding into folklore, its spreadsheets morphing into scrolls of doom. The Red Paper may be fiction, but its power lies in this chilling truth. When numbers fail to convince, myths rush in to terrify. And in the shadow of Mount Inari, where stone foxes keep their eternal watch, Japan's reckoning draws near. In Fuyuanda, the mist-shrouded precincts of Fushimi Inari, where vermilion torii gates form a tunnel to the past, the boundary between myth and algorithm has begun to dissolve. The Red Paper's prophecy, once dismissed as digital folklore, now pulses with a terrifying plausibility, its tendrils tightening around Japan's throat through the very phenomena meant to debunk it. Take the cherry blossoms. Data from Osaka University reveals Kyoto's sakura now bloom. 11 days earlier than in 1953, their delicate pink petals unfurling not to celebrate spring, but to sound a climate alarm that eerily mirrors the legends. Late bloom omen. Scientists call it a thermal paradox, warmer winters confusing dormancy cycles. But in Kyoto's back streets, elderly gardeners whisper of Inari's wrath as they rake prematurely fallen petals. The numbers are cold, clinical. 1.2 degree average temperature rise since the 1950s, 23% decline in sakura-related tourism revenue by 2026. Yet, when these metrics collide with TikTok's Twarnt Red Paper Challenge, where Gen Z overlays AR filters of a glitching black fox onto videos of wilting blossoms, the rational and the arcane fuse into a single suffocating truth. Enter the machines. In 2022, an MIT neural network trained on 150 years of financial data spat out a prediction that froze traders mid-sip of their matcha lattes. 2028, convergence point, Japanese debt crisis, 87.3% confidence. The model, nicknamed eerie AI by programmers for its ghostly accuracy, identified a negative feedback loop. Aging demographics, suppressing consumption, forcing more deficit spending, accelerating debt. That no human economist had dared quantify so bluntly. When leaked to 5chan, the findings went supernova. Conspiracy theorists spliced Uri's code with clips of the black fox, creating deep fake videos where the creature recites BOJ interest rates in a synthesized monotone. By 2024, Japan's digital occult movement was born. TikTok alchemists, Blending Shinto symbolism with predictive analytics, their AR filters mapping stock market crashes onto users' palms like techno-palmistry. At Shibuya's VR shrines, salarymen don headsets to watch the Nikkei 225 transform into a swarm of pixelated foxes, some fleeing, others attacking, while an AI voiceover recites the red paper's prophecies in archaic Japanese. The climate crisis amplifies this dissonance. As record typhoons pummel Kyushu and TEPCO scrambles to restart nuclear reactors, their concrete shells cracked by a decade of post-Fukushima neglect, the red paper's imagery mutates in real time. A viral TikTok series titled Broader Black Fox Diaries superimposes the creature over drone footage of flooded Osaka suburbs, its eyes glowing with the same crimson hue as radiation warning signs. Farmers in Hokkaido, their potato crops ruined by unseasonal frosts, now consult AI apps that cross-reference soil data with Edo period famine scrolls, a grotesque marriage of precision agriculture and apocalyptic folklore. Even the government's own climate reports read like mythic incantations. Negative feedback loops, cascading systemic failures, points of no return. Yet it is the youth, raised on anime dystopias and climate grief, who weaponize this convergence. University students in Tokyo's Koenji district have turned the black fox into a protest icon, projecting it onto the Bank of Japan's headquarters with laser drones while chanting, "You can't repo our future." Their manifesto, drafted using ChatGPT-5 and peppered with references to both the red paper and Uri AI's predictions, declares, "The foxes are not coming. They're already here. In the algorithms, in the carbon ppm, in the compound interest devouring our dreams." Meanwhile, crypto startups sell Inari coin tokens tied to climate futures markets. Their promo videos featuring kitsune avatars trading carbon credits on the blockchain. Historians recognize this moment as a recursive loop of trauma. The red paper's narrative structure, nature's rhythms disrupted, followed by divine punishment, mirrors the 18th century. Year Without Summer. Scrolls that blamed volcanic winters on moral decay. But today's crisis wears a digital mask. When NHK aired a documentary juxtaposing the 2023 cherry blossom data with MIT's 2028 forecast, ratings spiked not among economists, but teenage viewers who flooded line groups with fan art of the youth Black Fox piloting a sinking BOJ helicopter. The nation's psyche now oscillates between hypermodernity and primal dread. Salarymen check real-time debt clocks on their smartphones, then toss coins at subway shrine altars dedicated to Inari of the algorithms. In this liminal space between server farms and sacred forests, the red paper has become more than a myth. It is a collective coping mechanism, a way to anthropomorphize the unthinkable. Climate scientists speak of attribution anxiety, the unbearable weight of knowing precisely how human actions distort nature's rhythms. The digital occult movement offers release. By transforming carbon graphs into dancing foxes and interest rates into AR labyrinths, Gen Z converts data trauma into ritual. But beneath the neon-lit exorcisms lies a chilling question. What if the machines and the gods are saying the same thing? As Uri AI's 2028 deadline looms, Japan finds itself trapped in a feedback loop of its own making. A civilization that built the future too well, only to discover its equations now rhyme with ancient curses, its algorithms humming the same deer. In the stormlit lecture halls of Tokyo University, Professor Kenji Sato paces before a holographic projection of the red paper, his voice slicing through the hum of quantum computers. Apocalypse fatigue, he declares to a room of wide-eyed grad students, is the cancer of modernity, a metastasis of distrust in institutions metastasizing into collective delusion. His words land like scalpels, dissecting the red paper phenomenon with clinical precision. Japan's suicide rate spiking 18% since the 2011 tsunami. Trust in government cratering to 9% post-Fukushima. Algorithms feeding despair into infinite scrolls. To Sato, a behavioral economist who survived the bubble era's collapse, the prophecy isn't folklore. It's a sociological autopsy. When NHK airs yet another recovery special, while 73% of young adults believe they'll die poorer than their parents, myths become methadone for the masses. He growls, slamming a 2025 Pew Research report onto his desk. The data is merciless. 42% of Gen Z now consult AI tarot apps before job interviews, while Shinto shrine visits by under 30s have tripled since 2020. You think they're praying to Inari? No, they're screaming into a void that screams back through TikTok filters. Yet 500 kilometers south, in the cedar-scented gloom of Fushimi Inari's inner sanctum, head priest Masahiro Shimizu offers a counter-narrative while polishing stone fox statues older than the Magna Carta. The black fox isn't a curse, he murmurs, his voice merging with the rustle of pilgrims' ima-pui-fueng feeds. It's a mirror, one that reflects humanity's severed bond with the seasons, the soil, the sacred. To Shimizu, whose ancestors tended these shrines through Sengoku-era bloodshed and Meiji industrialization, the red paper's power stems not from its novelty, but its antiquity. He unrolls a 1783 scroll depicting a nine-tailed fox standing atop a mountain of coins, a Tokugawa-era warning against greed that now sits in eerie dialogue with BOJ balance sheets. Inari's messengers have always worn many forms, he says, lighting incense for a salaryman who left his business card at the altar. The color changes, but the message remains. Hubris summons storms. The tension between these worldviews, Sato's data-driven nihilism versus Shimizu's ancestral pragmatism, ignites cultural brushfires across Japan. When a Keio University study linked red paper belief to decreased antidepressant use, a 22% drop in Osaka's 2035 cohort, sociologists hailed it as placebo spirituality in action. But the morning after NHK aired that report, Shimizu found his shrine overrun with hundreds of Gen Z visitors, not to pray, but to livestream. They're using our rituals as green screens for their AR apocalypses, chuckled an apprentice priest, watching a teen girl project a glitching black fox onto the Haydn Hall. Even the act of faith had become a fractal of doubt. Sato's team at Tokyo University tracks this cognitive dissonance through neural imaging. fMRI scans reveal that subjects exposed to the red paper prophecy show simultaneous activation in the amygdala, fear, and nucleus accumbens, reward, a biochemical cocktail akin to gambling addiction. It's not belief, Sato explains. It's dopamine nihilism. The brain craves certainty, even if it's catastrophic. His research exposes a generational rift. Those over 50 dismiss the legend as two-channel nonsense, while under 30s exhibit 68% faster cortisol spikes when shown AI-generated 2028 collapse scenarios. The numbers paint a portrait of a society mainlining existential threat as entertainment, a nation where Bloomberg terminal graphs and kitsune memes trigger identical neural pathways. Yet Shimizu's pilgrims speak of quieter epiphanies. In a weathered notebook kept at the shrine's office, a 24-year-old freelance programmer scribbled, "The fox isn't predicting doom. It's asking us to see the chains we've mistaken for wings." His words echo through Japan's zeitgeist. Workers unionizing at Toyota's AI-driven plants, farmers reviving heirloom rice strains to outsmart climate change, even the viral decommercialize Inari movement, demanding corporations stop using shrine imagery in fintech ads. For Shimizu, these acts represent a subconscious return to musubi, the Shinto concept of sacred interconnection. The black fox's hunger isn't for the sun, he insists, but for the threads we've severed between profit and piety, growth and grace. The government's response oscillates between Sato's empiricism and Shimizu's mysticism. After the red paper was cited in a 2024 bond market sell-off, the Financial Services Agency commissioned an AI model named eerie, Ghost, to simulate crisis scenarios, only to discover the algorithm had ingested so much folklore data that its reports included footnotes referencing Edo period famine scrolls. Meanwhile, Kyoto's prefectural office now employs spiritual risk consultants to vet infrastructure projects through both environmental impact assessments and kanushi, divinations. The result? A $2 billion bullet train extension delayed not by engineering flaws, but by a priest's warning about disturbing fox dens along the route. As 2028 looms, the red paper's legacy crystallizes into a Rorschach test for Japan's soul. Sato's latest paper argues that the legend's staying power proves the death of meta-narratives, a fragmentation of truth into personalized apocalypses. Yet, Shimizu's pilgrims increasingly report dreams where the black fox morphs into a DNA double helix or blockchain node, ancient symbiosis reimagined for the Anthropocene. In the end, both men agree on one haunting truth. Whether through neural scans or stone foxes, Japan is relearning what it means to tremble. The only question left is whether that tremor presages an ending, or a long-overdue awakening. In the pre-dawn gloom of Kyoto, where the last cherry blossoms cling to branches, like charred pages from a burning ledger, Japan stands at a precipice between myth and metamorphosis. The red paper's prophecy, a fusion of algorithmic augury and Edo period dread, has become the nation's shadow self, a funhouse mirror reflecting its deepest terrors. That the yen's collapse might strip modernity's gilding to reveal a society still haunted by the Yurei of the lost decade, that climate change could reduce the sakura's fleeting beauty to a stopwatch ticking toward extinction. Yet within this existential vertigo lies the legend's unspoken challenge. to recognize that the black fox is not some external predator, but the embodiment of choices unmade, a spectral indictment of decades spent prioritizing GDP phantoms over ecological flesh, shareholder dividends over intergenerational contracts. The call to action is etched in the data itself. Japan's 263% debt-to-GDP ratio looms like a Shinto torii, framing a financial abyss, while the 11-day shift in cherry blossom cycles mirrors the 11th hour urgency of a species out of sync with its habitat. This is not a time for apocalypse cosplay, but for a great awakening. One where sustainability becomes the new national religion, its tenets forged in the smithy of crisis. Imagine a parallel universe unfolding from this moment. By 2028, the IBOJ's stagflation of despair mutates into a controlled burn as Japan pioneers the world's first circular economy. Its aging population recast not as a liability, but as a reservoir of wisdom guiding AI-driven permaculture farms. The same Gen Z who weaponized AR foxes to protest could deploy their digital fluency to gamify carbon neutrality, turning Tokyo into a real-life Pokemon Go arena, where capturing renewable energy nodes earns societal prestige. The yen, once synonymous with freefall, might stabilize through a blockchain-backed green currency pegged to reforestation metrics, a concept already whispered about in MIT's Uri AI labs. Yet, the alternate 2028 flickers with darker omens. Picture Osaka's skyline dimmed by rolling blackouts as LNG shortages collide with failed reactor restarts, or the Bank of Japan's headquarters barricaded by farmers wielding sickles forged from melted-down robot caregivers. The Black Fox's prophecy thrives in this ambiguity, its power drawn not from inevitability, but from the knife's-edge tension between collapse and renaissance. The Red Paper's true lesson is that modernity's haifur myths are not prophecies. They are diagnostics. Its viral spread mirrors the apocalypse fatigue gripping a generation raised on climate reports and algorithmic doom-scrolling. Yet its imagery, foxes, falling leaves, labyrinthine banks, reveals a subconscious blueprint for redemption. Ancient Japan understood that kami spirits inhabited both forests and markets. Perhaps the path forward lies in resacralizing the systems that govern our lives. When a Nagoya auto plant retrofits its assembly lines to honor Inari's ethos of balance, zero waste, energy-positive factories, or when Tohoku's tsunami-ravaged coasts become hubs for tidal energy monks who blend Shinto rituals with turbine maintenance, the line between sacred and sustainable blurs into irrelevance. As the clock ticks toward 2028, the nation's fate hangs on a single searing question. Will Japan become the phoenix or the fox? The phoenix scenario, a rebirth through green tech and demographic pragmatism, demands unflinching sacrifices, euthanizing zombie corporations, embracing immigration as kohai rather than invaders, letting unprofitable rural towns return to wild sacred groves. The fox scenario, a descent into hyperinflationary folklore, requires only passivity, a continued addiction to the narcotic of nostalgia. Already, signs of both futures flicker across the archipelago. In Fukuoka, a startup incubator housed in a converted Shinto shrine develops AI models that predict typhoon paths using Edo-era wind divination techniques, while in Akihabara, apocalyptics Collapse cafes charge patrons, Y 2028, to sip matcha lattes served by android ghee.